Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you guys. Today we're going back to Adventure Prank-Kids for a few games here. This is still the same build that we showed off at the beginning of Season 8 here for that first deck profile, but this time these games are actually from Season 8. Yeah, that first deck profile I mentioned in there, but those games were technically from the very end of Season 7, whereas these ones I've been playing, again, this season here. So, yeah, I have definitely been enjoying this deck quite a bit. I did read, obviously the comments of the deck profile video. I've seen a bunch of people, not a bunch necessarily, but I've seen a couple people saying that they do prefer 3 copies of the Prank-Kids over Prank-Kids Place, and, like, I've kind of been going back and forth on that mentally, right? Like, I definitely see... obviously where you're coming from, that place can be ashed, and if you have to rely on place and it gets ashed, but at the same time I can't help but think like, oh, if that's the case, I mean, any of the prank kids getting ashed is also going to be the end of one of our plays. See, I touched on this a bit before, but I think the reason I like 3 place and then less of the actual prank kids is that, when you're playing a lot of the prank kids, it's really easy to open. I mean, obviously opening 2 prank kids is really good, but any more than that is definitely superfluous. But I really like opening place and a prank kid, or even place and 2 prank kids, specifically because place can be ashed. And there have definitely been enough times, not a whole lot of times, but enough times where place does successfully act as ash bait that, yeah, I'm very much a fan of the 3 place in this build. Now, granted, I should probably go with a different 3 of than Dropsies, maybe Fansies, but because I'm not playing Totally Awesome, I've thought about slotting Totally Awesome back in the deck. Oh, over Weather Washer, that's right, I was actually going to make that change, but I forgot to do it before this video. No, that was another comment that suggested that, and I actually really like that change. In fact, I'm going to make it now while I'm thinking about it, but just know that Totally Awesome was not in my extra deck for the games you're about to see. I'm just going to do this now just so that I don't forget again, but yeah, Weather Washer I've not really summoned, at all, since I included the Adventure Engine in Prank-Kids. Weather Washer was really used before, when you had Instant Fusion and or 2 Prank-Kids Pandemonium, because it's your instant fusion target, right? Because you obviously want to keep the Rocket Ride for, well, plays with Rocket Ride. So Weather Washer is your instant fusion target, and then when you're playing 2 Pandemonium, it would come up sometimes where you can Pandemonium for a Weather Washer during your opponent's turn if they disrupt your ability to make a Battle Butler, and then you can use that to survive the opponent. But it's such a niche line, honestly. Even beforehand, I only ever used Weather Washer like that once, maybe twice pre-adventure. But every other time I summoned it was, again, off of Instant Fusion, and again, we're not playing Instant Fusion for this build. We're not playing Thunder Dragon Fusion either, which somebody else pointed out. I didn't mean for this to be, directly address all the comments from last, but I don't mind doing that in video either. Of course, I do like responding to comments myself with comments, but, yeah, Thunder Dragon Fusion I thought about including, but honestly, I just didn't really have room for it. And that might seem a little weird. Of course, you could just go up to 41 or 42 cards, but it's not even just that I didn't have room for it. It's that I didn't have room for it to keep the deck at 40, and I didn't really feel the need to include it, honestly, because that's another card that, like Weather Washer, ever since the Adventure Engine came in, I just didn't find myself ever activating Thunder Dragon Fusion. It's easy enough, I think, for the deck to get its plays that I didn't find myself needing to just, turn to that with Vert Anaconda. So I just decided not to include it. I haven't missed it, honestly. Maybe there have been scenarios where I could have used it and, unknowingly that would have won a game where I lost, but I don't find myself losing, significantly more games either, so. And again, even pre-adventures, thinking back, I definitely don't think I really... No, that's not true necessarily. I use Thunder Dragon Fusion every now and then, but I think infrequently enough that I just don't feel very strongly about keeping it in the deck. So, plus, like I said, this deck I really wanted to keep down to 40 cards because it's so important to open with a Prank Kid. And again, we have a ton of ways to get 2 Prank Kids. To get to a Prank Kid, rather. We also have a ton of ways to get 2 Prank Kids, potentially, but obviously you want to open at least one to do your Prank Kids lines, so I think keeping the deck as close to 40 as possible, especially if you're, like me, not playing 3 of each of the Prank Kids, then and you're playing 2-ofs of some of them, then yeah, you should definitely, in my opinion, be sticking closer to 40. But yeah, so like I said, not much has really changed about the build. Again, this Totally Awesome was not in this iteration of the games you're about to see. It was a weather washer instead. But moving forward, I will definitely be including the Totally Awesome, as I've definitely summoned that far more, not like super often, but definitely far more than I've summoned weather washer, I can tell you that. So yeah, that's about all I've got to say. So as always, we are going to go into some games, but before we do that, let's go ahead and break down the list card by card, just so that we're all on the same page and we know what all is in the deck. We are playing 1 Effect Veiler, 2 Prank-Kids Fansies, 3 Maxx, 3 Prank-Kids Dropsies, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 Prank-Kids Lampsies, 2 Water Enchantress of the Temple, 1 Destiny Hero Celestial, 2 Prank-Kids Rocksies, 1 Destiny Hero Dasher, 1 Wandering Gryphon Rider, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Foolish Burial, 2 Fusion Destiny, 2 Rite of Aramesir, 1 Drakerback the Rideable Dragon, 3 Prank-Kids Place, 1 Prank-Kids Pranks, 1 Fateful Adventure, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Prank-Kids Pandemonium, 2 Crossout Designator, and 2 Infinite Impermanence. Now down here in the extra deck, we've got 1 Prank-Kids Rocket Ride. Again, we had 1 Prank-Kids Weather Washer, is now Totally Awesome. 1 Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, 1 Prank-Kids Battle Butler. I don't think you need more than 1 personally. I've never thought you needed more than 1. Builds in the past considered 2 to be more frequent, but now I'm definitely seeing more builds go down to 1. And so don't sweat if you feel like you can't get away with 1 Battle Butler. You totally can. I've seen that comment a fair bit, not on my videos, but actually on like the Discord for the Prank-Kids channel of like, do I need the second Battle Butler? I've seen that quite a lot. You don't. I just want to throw that out there. We're playing 2 Link Spiders. I do actually like 2 Link Spiders. You don't need the second one, but having 1 for the Adventure token and 1 for the Nibiru token has come up before. It's nice. We're playing 2 Prank-Kids Meow Meow Moo, 2 Prank-Kids Dodo Doodle Doo, 1 Prank-Kids Bow Wow Bark, 1 Predator Planet Vert Anaconda, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Prank-Kids Rip Roar and Roaster, and 1 Access Code Talker. Rip Roar and Roaster is another card that I see where there is a card that I see a lot of people dropping, and I do see some people saying that it's because there aren't that many back row decks. I will say that yes, there are not very many back row decks in the format right now. That said, I still think Rip Roar and Roaster is generally worth not only including but going for on turn 1 when you can, specifically because of the card Fateful Adventure. Like, this card is so frequent that literally, like, it's worth it if you can make a Rip Roar and Roaster, not to go out of your way to do it and not for it to be the only thing. Of course you want to do it with like the 2 Prank-Kids combo that ends you with the Battle Butler setup and the Rip Roar and Roaster, but Rip Roar and Roaster is still worth making this format, again, even though there's not a lot of decks setting a bunch of back rows. There are a lot of decks activating Fateful Adventure, so just being able to, snap, destroy the adventure before your opponent can do anything with it, definitely ideal. So, okay, I think that's about all of my thoughts about the deck. Just looking over the list once more, making sure there's nothing I didn't, or there's not anything I wanted to address that I didn't. Nope, we're looking good. So cool, let's go ahead and move into some gameplay. This first game is going to be against Adventure Phantom Knights, but this game actually is only going to be 1 turn. I really wanted to show this game more off for like interactions with Disruption and Handtraps, because this is, okay, so this is a video I do still plan on making that's actually kind of been in the works for a little while now. I've just been workshopping a lot of I want to make a video about like, when is the best time to use hand traps? Like, when is the best time to use disruption? And I actually kind of got that a little bit with this duel, so I wanted to show it off here. So, opponent's going to be taking the first turn. They're going to lead by normal summoning the Phantom Knight's Torn Scales, and I immediately pop off with Maxx. Some of you who regularly watch my videos might be a little bit confused, because I always say that you should wait until you know you can get a draw off Maxx. And what I mean by that is, like, in an ideal world, you're using Maxx in response to an effect that is going to special summon a monster, as opposed to blindly throwing it out and hoping your opponent special summons. I see a lot, not all the time, and not even most of the time, but enough of the time I'll see people, like, I'll activate a search effect. Like, okay, this happened all the time when I would play Tri-Brigade Zodiac. Discard Fractal, opponent chains Maxx. I don't really understand that chain, because I could very easily end my turn. Now here, I'm more willing to do it for a couple of reasons, but I'll touch on that in just a moment. But like, when it's in response to something like a fractal, right? Like my play that I'm setting up here has nothing inherently to do with special summoning, and I can pretty easily, not always, but most of the time pretty easily end my turn in that kind of scenario without special summoning at all, meaning your Maxx C went -1, you didn't get anything off of it, you just discarded a card from your hand. So that's one of many reasons why, even if you're not playing a deck, it's good to know a deck. Like, or it can even be helpful to watch videos like mine about it, because then you can learn a deck's choke points, and then you don't make mistakes. And knowing a deck's choke points isn't even always about knowing when to hit something, but knowing when not to hit things. So here, in this instance, the reason I'm okay using Maxx C right now is because my opponent's normal summoning a Torn Scales. Given that they're doing that, I'm pretty confident they're just about to special summon a Silent Boots and then try to go for plays. You know, plays being going to Cherubni, sending the Water Enchantress, and all that fun stuff. They actually don't end up doing that here, probably because I Maxx C'd, but maybe because they just had a different line in mind. But also here, against Phantom Knights, if they just end with a Torn Scales up in attack mode and nothing else, totally fine going -1 for that. That is a-okay with me. Whereas against something like Tri-Brigade Zodiac, again, you limit their plays by throwing the Maxx C out early, but you can also just very easily do it in response to an effect that summons. Whereas here, again, I'm looking to get the draw off the Silent Boots, which will summon itself and not activate, so I can't respond to it. So opponent does end up special summoning the Boots, giving me a draw. It's actually going to be an Ash Blossom, so we're already looking really good for disruption here. And they're actually going straight into Dagda instead of Cherubni, so I guess they don't want to set up the Adventure Engine here. So now here I'm going to Ash this Foxy Tune, and this is pretty clearly Ash bait to me, but I'm still going to Ash it anyway, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that I know obviously what my opponent's trying to do here, right? They're trying to use Foxy Tune to search the, what do you call it, the Ziamine, summon that, use the effect to search, and then they can use Dagda's effect to get the Scythe set up. So obviously I don't want that to happen. Two, my opponent's got 2 cards in hand. I know one of them is a card they were pretty willing to throw out. Like, there was really no hesitation. It's hard to tell in a replay, of course, but when I was playing this game live, I could tell there was no hesitation for them to use this Foxy Tune, which means they probably have a card that's really good discard fodder in hand. Maybe even something like a Fog Blade or Wings to potentially bring these cards back. Of course, they can just search that with the, or they could search, you know, one of those with the Silent Boots as well, but if they have one engraved and they're able to set up by discarding it right now, that could potentially grant them a lot more plays than they might normally have access to. So even though, again, I was pretty sure this Foxy Tune was just going to be Ash bait, I decided to just Ash it anyway, just so I wouldn't have to really worry about it. Plus, if we look here, you know, my opponent's already used their normal summon by this point, so they're relatively, not extremely, but relatively limited in the plays they can make. Here they're going to use Silent Boots effect to get the Shaded Brigandine, and that will allow them to summon the Torn Scale here. They're going to use the effect to send Lightning Storm, which will trigger Dagda. That's actually fine. Now here's the thing, right? I've got this Veiler in hand. You might be thinking, well, wait a second. You just let this Torn Scale and this Dagda both resolve, but you have a Veiler. What's going on here? Don't you want? Do you want your opponent to Scythe Lock you? Of course, no. I don't want my opponent to Scythe Lock me, and that is why I'm letting these effects resolve. Because in order to not get Scythe Locked, the best thing to do here is not to. Well, if your goal is to only not get Scythe Locked, then of course Veilering the Dagda would be fine. But I'm not trying to get Scythe Locked. I'm also trying not to deal with a DPE if possible on my opponent's turn. So this Torn Scales, this Dagda, I don't care. Whatever, they're fine. They're just setting up the Scythe doing this. I'm really looking to Veilware the Predaplant Vert Anaconda. That'll obviously put them down 2,000 life points, which will make them easier to potentially kill on my next turn. But in addition to that, then they're not getting out the DPE. And yes, they've already set the Scythe up, and that is a little bit scary, but this deck does not really, I can tell from experience, and I know this is like a almost 50 card variant, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think it might be either 49 or 50 cards. So they could be playing other ways to destroy their own Scythe, certainly, but it's not very likely. And again, I just really don't want to deal with this DPE. And I also don't want to deal with the Scythe, of course, but if I deal with the DPE, then I don't have to address either, so. Yep, sure enough, the Shaded Brigandine comes down for the Link Spider, and then they are going to try to end up going into, or not try to, they do just go into the Predaplant Vert Anaconda here. But joke's on them. Like I said, I've got this Veiler that I've been saving, and The other funny thing too is about saving this Veiler, right, is that it could very easily also tilt my opponent, even though that's not the intention of my play. Tilting, for those who are unfamiliar, I think it's a poker term actually, where it's the idea is that you're getting frustrated and you're letting it affect your gameplay. That's all tilting is. And you know, if my opponent's under Maxx C, which they are, obviously, and they think that like, oh, my effects have been resolving just fine because they didn't have the out. Wait, now they have the Veiler. Oh, now all of a sudden they have the out. Of course they drew the out right at the end when it mattered the most. Hence, you know, tilting. So that's, again, wasn't the intention of my play, but is a potential side effect of it, as I'm pretty sure my opponent, yeah, just concedes right here. So, yeah, that turn wasn't obviously very involved as far as, like, Adventure Prank-Kids specific gameplay, but, again, I know people have been asking about, like, can you do a video talking about choke points, hand traps, when to respond with disruption, all that stuff. I do still want to make that full-fledged video, but I also want to give you guys a little bit of a teaser, a little bit of a sample of what that kind of analysis might look like, and get your feedback in that regard. But definitely always looking for feedback from you all. So, okay, now let's go into some other games here. Okay, so this game is going to be against @Ignister, which is actually, I didn't even think about this. This is going to be another good showcase of, like, knowing where a deck's choke points are. Because @Ignister is not a deck that I've ever played, but I still know the deck's relative choke points. I know the Dark Infant is the big choke point. That's the one you want to negate. So, here the opponent has a Signet Mining. They're actually going to lead with that. I know I just said that the thing you want to negate is the Dark Infant, even though I just ashed a Signet Mining, but obviously I've got the Veiler to negate the Dark Infant. That's the Link 1 for those of you who don't know, the Link 1 with 500 attack. That searches the field spell. I still have the Veiler to come down for that a little bit later, but even if I didn't have the Veiler, I would definitely still Ash here, because the Signet Mining requires our opponent rather to send a card from hand to grave just to activate, and any effect where you can Ash it, that effect required like a discard cost is definitely amazing, because that's a +1 for us right there, right? We're spending 1 card Ash Boss to get rid of 2 of our opponent's cards, so definitely very nice. We love starting ahead of our opponent. It's definitely, it makes closing out the game a lot easier, I'll just put it that way. So, alright, here they go for the AI Meet You for normal summoning the Ignister. What is this one? I can never remember the names. Chi-Chi, right? Chi-Chi, again, I'm going to let resolve. Don't want to Veiler that because I know the choke point is the Dark Infant, which is coming down right here. Really, it's a field spell. It's like their main combo piece, right? So I'm going to Veiler here, feeling pretty good. Our opponent's only got 2 unknown cards in hand, so not super concerned until I see that one of them is actually a field spell anyway. So yeah, they had the answer. They had the combo piece anyway. So I'm still going to imperm this Picari here because honestly, aside from this choke point, well, I know they've already used AI Meet You, but I knew there was the other one that brought stuff back from grave. And also, I don't know, there could be a random, you know, @Ignister spell or trap card that's used that I don't know about that could be. It's just better safe than sorry, basically. It's really, that's all just really roundabout way of me saying, yeah, we're just playing it safe here, so. Yeah, so the opponent does still have plays, but they're definitely not as impressive as, well, they could be. Fortunately, because we were able to kind of thwart some of the plays there with our disruption. So they do end up still being able to go for the Arrival Cybers @Ignister, but fortunately only with 3 materials, so it's only at 3,000, and it's going to be a lot easier to run over in battle. Actually, but even that being the case, the only card in our extra deck that can actually do that is Access Code Talker. Everything else has like 3,000 or less attack points, so we're just gonna have to go for access code, which is cool. That's actually one of the main reasons I kept this duel, is because as we climb up to access code. Okay, so I've not actually seen Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. Is it Vrains? Arc V was the last series I watched. I haven't been keeping up with the anime since then. But I do know that the last duel of the series ended with like Arrival Cybers @Ignister versus Access Code Talker. So again, that was half the reason I wanted to show this duel, is because we had a cool anime moment. We always like it when cool anime moment happens in the middle of a quote-unquote real game, right? Right? Yeah, we do. I do anyway. Oh yeah, you know what? I could have actually prevented this Fateful Adventure from getting negated if I had called by it. If I just well, the bane of every Yu-Gi-Oh player's existence. If I had read my opponent's cards, I could have preemptively called by this Danmari to get my Fateful Adventure online, which definitely would have been the optimal play, but it's not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination here. Well, actually, I think it would have... I'm trying to think if it would have let me find lethal. I think it might have, actually. Hang on, we'll see what our opponent's at. No, it wouldn't have. I don't think so. Yeah, I know, I'm pretty sure not. I didn't need to go into this link spider either. I realized this like right after the fact. I was like, oh, I could have just linked the token, the Doodle Doodle Doo, into the Nightmare Unicorn, and then the Unicorn, the Dropsies, into the access code instead of the weird kind of, I guess, roundabout way that I'm doing it. But the most important part here is that we're able to run over our opponent's boss monster, and they're not going to have any resources left on hand or board after this, which is definitely what we like to see here. We're going to set the call by for good measure, as you should always do if you have the room in your spell trap zone. Setting the called by, because called by is not just useful against hand traps; it's useful against a lot of card effects activating the graveyard. So. We also, again, are just the luckiest player in the world, so we ripped an Ash Blossom off the top of the deck. We always love to see that. Here I'm going to let this Picari add Ignis resolve, though, because I'm not really concerned about it. Like, basically the way it works is I know there's, you know, the field spell, the AI spell that summons from deck, and the one that summons from grave. And I know they've already used... Actually, did they use that this turn? The one that summons from... Hang on, let me look. Oh no, that was last turn they used AI Meet You. And it adds as a summon. Right. But they do have the AI Reborn here. However, unfortunately, because I misplayed my not using that call by, I actually, you know what? I didn't misplay. It was just a Galaxy Brain play. I knew they were going to go for AI Idol Reborn, and that would cause them to concede if I called by it. So that's why I didn't call by it. It's not because I didn't make a mistake. But that just goes to show, you know, even simple misplays can end up leading to victory in and of themselves. So don't be discouraged if you make small mistakes. It literally happens to me all the time. So alright, let's take a look at the next game. Alright, this game is against Ancient Gears, which I definitely didn't expect to see in, like, you know, high plat within, well, I guess it's not that big of a surprise. I was gonna say high plat within the first like 48 hours or so, but yeah, like I said, not that big of a surprise. Not because I think Ancient Gears are that like super good or something, but because, like, you know, plat is still relatively casual. That's why I say, you know, rogue decks, even though I don't feature them as much, that's honestly mostly just because I don't want to craft all the stuff for a deck I might not be interested in or probably won't play that much. But if you've got a rogue deck you really like, or if that's the only deck you've got that, you know, you can use, don't let that discourage you from laddering. Even a deck that's like at rogue tier is definitely more than capable of hitting diamond and pushing through platinum. Like Ancient Gears here. I mean, this person's already on the, you know, this close to diamond. They're obviously going to get there. So anyway, we're doing a fairly standard Prank-Kids combo line here. Opponent's going to attempt to use the Ash to stop us. I could have actually let the Ash resolve of that Doodle Doodle Doo. I have no idea why my opponent didn't Ash sooner on an actual Prank-Kid, but they might just not be familiar, which again, this would be another lesson to hammer home about making sure you know the choke points of popular decks. But I ended up call buying it anyway, even though I have an Ash in hand. It probably wasn't the smartest idea. I just kind of, yeah, I saw a hand trap, I dropped the call buy, and then I thought about it. We're going to make it work, but again, I probably should not have call buy there. Alright, so yeah, we'll use the the Bow Wow Bark effect here. Or no, not the effect here. We're going to summon the Bow Wow Bark, and then we can kind of go for the adventure line right on time here at the end, right? And then we'll use Bow Wow Bark. What I meant to say was we'll use Bow Wow Bark during our opponent's draw phase, as usual, in order to get the materials back to our hand before Bow Wow Bark gets kaiju. Because I didn't always used to do that. I had not always used to Bow Wow Bark on the draw phase every time. But then, you know, I got kaiju'd a couple of times, but my Bow Wow Bark, and then it was like, alright, let's just start doing this before that has a chance to happen. So let's go try to call by my Jesus, I already forgot what the card was. Oh, my Bow Wow Bark, of course, to prevent me from getting those cards back, but fortunately we had the called by there, so that is not going to be the case. And opponent sets a field spell of all things before passing. I don't think I ever actually found out what this was. Maybe it's like a Gear Town or something. I bet it's a Gear Town. Excuse me. But yeah, in any case, not going out of my way to really bother with it. Same with this Ash. I mean, I don't have a response to this Ash Blossom anyway, but it's fine. Obviously, I can still normal summon, and then I can still flip up this Pandemonium at some point. Okay, yep, going for more fairly standard Prank-Kids. So actually, this is super standard. What I'm doing right now is going out of my way to make sure that yeah, I've got enough damage on board, basically, as quickly as possible. And also so we can, you know, get the different Prank-Kids cycled through, making sure they're getting all their effects and all that fun stuff. And as always, chain blocking with the place too. So at this point, the opponent's at 7,000. I've got 7,500 damage on board after the attack boost here, so definitely looking good in that regard. Yeah, like it's like, you know, you foolish to send a water Enchantress. It's like you don't have anything better to do. I don't know why I always find that funny, but it's definitely something you should do, you know, deck thinning and all that, but wasn't exactly needed, as we can see in this case. All right, we've got one more duel left to look at. Let's go ahead and do so now. All right, last duel here is going to be against Weather Painters. I don't know what it is about this climb so far. I mean, again, I'm taking it relatively slow, but like I'm seeing more casual decks while actually laddering than I did when I was in Diamond 1 last season. So maybe we take this though. And opponent's going to take the first turn here. We've fortunately got Maxx, so I'm not super concerned. Leading with Extravagance. Oh, that's right, this game. Yeah, because my opponent leads with Extravagance and then sets one and passes, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, the hell kind of hand do you have where you Extravagance and then set one and pass? Like, it just seems really odd to me. You know, I see Extravagance, first thing I'm thinking is, like, maybe Eldritch? So, you know, maybe the back row could be, like, a Floodgate, or it could be, like, a, what is it, the one that summons from deck, the Sanguine... Scarlet Sanguine, something like that. It's actually been a long time since I've played well, it's been a long time since I've played with Eldritch. It's actually been a little while since I've played against it either. And of course, now that I've said that, I have assured that I will almost exclusively run into Eldritch, probably from here on out, when at times when I don't necessarily want to, but hey, you know, whatever. It's so it goes. In any case here, you know, we managed to establish our plays. Just gonna see if I can't OTK the opponent here. You know, obviously the adventure line making that a lot easier. Yeah, that's something I can never get over about the adventure line. It's like, not only is it super busted, but when you're going second and you've cleared your opponent's board, it's also just a free 4,000 damage. Like, you can just knock off your opponent's life points, half of them for quote unquote free, but you know what I mean. Okay, so yeah, here I was kind of thinking, like, okay, if we're all going to be at 7,500, then I can just, like, end things this turn. You know, hopefully, ideally and smoothly, but I think there's going to be a small hiccup. Well, let's also give another game. No, okay, I was thinking of a different game. Yeah, I must have, because my opponent just conceded there, so cool. All right, we definitely take those. Yeah, just a fairly... simple setup. Just, again, not really like a structured combo for an OTK, but I'm more or less just kind of like doing things until I can until I can just put 8,000 damage on the board, which is actually not really that difficult to do with a deck like this. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on now to the outro. All right, everybody, just wanted to thank you all very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a great deal to me personally, and is also a great way to support the channel as well. I'm also appreciative of those who are commenting and subscribing. Both also not only mean a lot to me personally. I tried to combine mean and personal and got meal there. Not only means a lot to me personally, but again, great ways to support the channel. Comments, love to see you guys. If you've got suggestions for the build, as always, as you saw, you know, I But as I put in the Totally Awesome, took out the Weather Washer, I am definitely open to suggestions, so do not be shy about sharing those. I would love to hear them. Any particular decks you want to see, ideally from among ones I've played, but yeah, you know, as the season goes on, I might end up branching into some more new decks. I don't know, I can't make any promises though, because like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm still very much like learning and practicing with a lot of the decks that I've been like, you know, loosely started picking up at the what do you call it, the vast majority of the last season there with the new pack coming out. So still in that mode of like jack of all trades, master of none, but we'll get there. We always do. So yep, that's all I've got for this video. So without further ado, this is Xlex. I'm signing out, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.